Hansa Park in Sierksdorf, Germany is one of my favorite theme parks I had the chance to visit in Europe. The place is absolutely beautiful, located right on the Baltic Sea, and the themes are totally insane. I'll go more in depth later in the video, but the fact that this park is able to merge theming and thrill so seamlessly is something that many parks could learn from. Now, easily the best thing about Hansa Park is their roller coaster collection, which is an awfully impressive lineup. They only have 7 coasters, which isn't a ton, but their 1-2 punch is amazing, and their supporting lineup is also solid. So in this video, I'll be ranking all 7 of this park's roller coasters, and we'll talk about why. Note that I only got 1 ride on each with the exception of the Schwur Kärnan. That one I got 2 rides on, but luckily the experiences were so memorable that they're still relatively fresh in my memory. So let's dive in. Kicking things off at number 7 is Kleine Zar. This is Hansa Park's smallest coaster. It is a Preston and Barbieri mine wagon model, and there's only a few of these ever built. That's not for any particular reason though. The ride is not too rough and it's not a bad coaster for kids at all. Probably the most interesting thing about Kleine Zar is that it has a wooden support structure, which is really unusual for a ride like this, so I'm not sure what that was about. If you're looking for something a bit more intense, number 6 is Royal Scotsman. This coaster very much bridges the gap between a kiddie coaster and family coaster, but it does have a 52-foot max height, so I mean it's got a little something there. The ride is a common Vekoma Junior coaster model, but it does have a custom layout threading the vertical loop of another coaster in the park, which is cool. Overall, Royal Scotsman looks great, it isn't too shaky, and it's sizable considering the demographic it's catering to. Number 5 is Crazy Mine. If this ride looks familiar, it's because it is. This is a basic Wild Mouse coaster by Mauer. However, what's cool is that this park did put some effort into theming this ride. You've got some cool rock work around the layout and even some animatronics outside the entrance. I found that this particular Wild Mouse ran with minimal trim brakes, so the laterals were quite strong. Just be sure to brace for those brakes when they do occur because they are not the smoothest. Number 4 is Schlange von Midgard. The name translates from German to snake from Midgard, Midgard being one of the 9 worlds of Norse mythology. And this name makes sense because the theme of the ride is centered around a Norwegian tribe that claimed to have killed the greatest sea snake ever. There's even a pre-show with animatronics before you traverse the lift hill, kind of going into the story a little bit. The presentation and theming was easily the best thing about this coaster because the layout is quite minimal. I mean, the ride is only 33 feet tall, meaning even Royal Scotsman is taller and technically more intense. But because of the ride's thematic elements and because it was glass smooth and because they actually send you around the track layout twice, it was a fairly surprising ride. I genuinely thought it was a great coaster for the park's younger guests, but still one that I also very much enjoyed. Number 3 is Nessie, of course named after the famous Loch Ness Monster. Now this is the park's oldest operating coaster. It actually opened in 1980, so it is indeed one of those classic Schwarzkopf rides. Up until a few years ago, it was pretty much void of any theming, but recently they've made the station look incredible, and because this was my first ride at Hansa Park, it was a pretty cool first impression. Layout-wise, Nessie only has 1 inversion, but it is very intense, so that's always good. The best parts, however, are the few airtime moments, and if you've ridden Shockwave at Six Flags Over Texas, you know how crazy that janky Schwarzkopf airtime feels. This coaster has a pretty awesome moment of ejector off the second turnaround and some cool floater as you decline into the final brake run. Those 2 moments definitely made the ride for me. If that wasn't there, I may have considered ranking Schlange von Midgard a little bit higher. But no doubt I love riding these old Schwarzkopfs as they're hard to come by these days, and this one was definitely one of my favorites. Number 2, Flucht von Novgorod. This Gerstlauer Eurofighter coaster was arguably one of the most surprising rides of the trip. Most coaster enthusiasts, when they talk about Hansa Park, go straight to the number 1 ride on this list, and they often leave Flucht von Novgorod in the shadow and out of the conversation. But let me tell you, this thing is intense, it's fun, and it has terrific theming. The actual theme itself is dark to say the least. Flucht von Novgorod translates to Escape from Novgorod, Novgorod being a city in Russia, which is pretty ironic given what's happening there right now. But anyways, you're basically playing the role of this guy who escapes Novgorod to fight the ruler of the land. But you know how in most stories where you defeat the villain and become victorious? In this story, he captures you and executes you. That is exactly what I love so much about Hansa Park, is their ability to create such outlandish themes that no other park would dare to come up with. To touch on the prime ride time and overall layout, you begin with the fastest accelerating LSM launch in the world. This launch takes riders from 0 to 62 miles per hour in under 1.5 seconds. That is absolutely insane. And I'll tell you what's even more insane is that this all takes place in the darkness, and as soon as the launch is over, you shoot out of the building and are practically blinded by the sunlight. By the time you can even process where you are, this camelback throws you, giving immaculate ejector airtime, and the rest is fun as well. But as you begin rolling into the building, you realize the ride's not over. You climb up an indoor vertical lift hill for even more ride time before the brake run. You've got a beyond vertical drop and a few really fun turns where you cannot see a thing. It is fantastic. Flucht von Novgorod was a genuinely amazing ride and one heck of a second place coaster. So what could be number 1? Well, that honor goes to the Schwur Kärnan. Where do I even begin with this ride? It's this absolutely massive 240-foot tall Gerstlauer Infinity, and the entire drop is located in this huge tower. The building was modeled after the actual Kärnan, which is a medieval tower in Sweden. This one is like way bigger than the original though, and it is an absolutely gorgeous building. The name of the ride translates to Oath of Kärnan, obviously referencing the structure of the ride. And the theme is that there's this cruel king whose people want to rise against him, so he builds a fortress so powerful that he can hide himself in and no one would be able to conquer it. Though the king was told that in order for the fortress to be truly unconquerable, a magic spell would have to be said, so he says the spell and he disappears and dies with his soul being captured in the fortress. I don't really think that was the king's desire, but hey, you win some, you lose some. Once you're actually on the ride, you have this giant twisted vertical drop of the darkness that throws you into an intense blitz of elements. Some of this coaster's transitions are very whippy and very sharp, however it does lose a little bit of speed towards the end of the layout. Luckily, the ride has a surprise that keeps you engaged, and spoiler alert, if you don't want to hear about this coaster's surprises, skip ahead like 20 seconds. In past videos, I've held off on spoilers, but it's really one of the reasons this coaster is so awesome. After the final brake run, when you're re-entering the building, it is pitch dark and you slowly roll through an inversion, which is so disorienting and so cool. But you think that's awesome, wait till you hear about what this coaster does before the first drop. When you're on this vertical lift hill in the darkness and are nearing the top of the tower, you come to a stop and wonder what the heck's going on. Then you watch this pre-show, but it's all in German, so I have no idea what they're saying, and then all of a sudden you fall backwards all the way down the vertical lift hill. It is absolutely insane. It's as if the ride couldn't be any more messed up. The Schwur Kärnan is the full package. There is so much to love about the coaster. By far, it is a worthy standout attraction for Hansa Park, and additionally is one of my favorite coasters in all of Europe. When you factor it into the rest of the park's rides and its overall atmosphere, there's no wonder I had such a good time here. Even though we were on a time crunch, Hansa Park made for some of the trip's most memorable coaster experiences. Next time I'm in this part of Germany, there's no doubt that I'd want to prioritize an entire day to Hansa Park. Last thing I'll mention is I spoke to many locals in northern Germany and southern Denmark who recommended Heide Park, another amusement park not too far away. However, the majority of people I talked to hadn't even heard of Hansa Park, or if they had, said Heide Park was the way to go. This is a stark contrast to my opinion that Hansa Park laps circles around Heide Park. And that's not a diss towards Heide Park, it's still a very fun place, but I'd recommend Hansa Park first any day of the week. Then again, that is just my opinion though. Let me know what you think of Hansa Park and how you'd rank their 7 roller coasters down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to give me a like and subscribe, as there's a lot more content like this coming in the future. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Bye guys.